Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to Daddy-Daughter Discussions. I'm here with my daughter, Miss Patrice. How you doing today?
Hello.
Looking all cute. You got the natural Afro-ish thing going. Is that would that be called an Afro, or is that something different?
It's an afro.
I think it's an Afro too. And you and I were laughing because you look like your grandmother. Like when my mama was, well, not when she was a baby, but when she was about 25. Like she literally looked a lot like you look now at 25, which is funny.
Yeah.
And I do
That's what
remember.
mama said.
Yep, I do remember when my mama was 25. My mom, let's see, I think I was born when she was 17, so I was literally like in second or third grade at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you look beautiful, of course. Now,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Now, I want to, you reached out to me and you had said that a good topic for us to really talk about, is sex. Basically, when it comes to men and dealing with men and stuff like that. And we're not here to talk about the birds and the bees. I assume you know where the birds and the bees, how all that works. But we're here to talk about sex and love and dealing with men and stuff like that. Which I think is great because the purpose of these conversations that we've been having is to talk to all fathers and daughters out there so they can kind of pick up something from the things that we discuss. So that's an interesting topic. I think it's a good topic. You know, it's funny. It seems like a lot of people get nervous when their kids or their children want to talk about sex, and their only answer when it comes to sex is "Don't do it." and and my approach, my attitude has always been the exact opposite. Because number one, if you don't talk to your kids about sex, somebody else will. Are they gonna learn about sex from Rihanna, or from their friends or whatever, or their boyfriend might teach her about sex, which you don't want. And then also, sex is nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, that's why human beings exist. Sex is the most
Mhm.
power. Sex and love are the most powerful forces. Um, I would say in the universe, because without sex and love, there is no life. If people don't become attracted, get together, and make kids, then there are no people. So every time I see a stadium full of people with 100,000 people, sometimes I'll be like, man, that's 100,000 times people got together, became attracted, and had sex, and they made a baby, and that's only a small percentage. Most of the time, there is no baby when people have sex. So you look at how many billions of people there are on the earth. A lot of people have a lot of sex, so I think it's worth talking about. I don't think it should be taboo in anybody's family. So what comes to mind with you? Like, why do you think it's an important topic to discuss?
I think it's important because, well, first off, I think that every father should feel comfortable talking to his child about something that could affect her life for the rest of her life. I think that if fathers don't talk to their daughters about sex and about relationships and about love, then like you said, I'd rather for my father to teach me because my father's going to give me the good and the bad versus some random guy teaching me because he's only going to give me the good. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's almost like when you put your daughter on your bike and you take her for a ride around the corner. Would you rather take her for a ride around the corner, or would you rather for some other man to take her for a ride around the corner? Because he may not take her in the same direction that you would. You're going to keep her safe and you're going to keep her in the know and to know why she shouldn't go down certain areas or why she shouldn't go down certain alleys. But most other men don't care that much to tell your daughter something like that. So I think it's just about being comfortable. And the way that you can be comfortable is just tell her, this is something that I want to talk to you about because this is something that's important to me. Show her pictures of STD. Show her pictures of things that can affect her body forever. Show her pictures of things that can kill her, like HIV. Show her what happens when these things happen. And I personally feel that your daughter will respect you for the rest of her life for that reason.
Mm. Well, I can't disagree with you on that. I mean, I think that sex is a very important topic to discuss, especially when you talk about like you're at that age, where the men are naturally going to be looking, and men and women, everybody they all have something that they want. And a lot of times people are going to tell you, they're going to say things to you that are going to get you to give them what they want, and what they want to do, or how their behavior will change based on how you respond to them, right? Some people will be nice to you when they think they can get something, and then suddenly like turn off like cold water when they realize they can't get what they were looking for. And I think a lot of young girls fall in that trap because they'll meet older guys and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I met this famous singer." And I want to get into singing. I want to get into the industry too. And he was so nice. He mentored me, and been teaching me, and he's been meeting with me. He's such a nice guy. And sometimes they'll be disappointed later when they find out there was a reason he was being a nice guy. He was trying to
Mhm.
get some, you know.
Yeah.
And and even when you hear about maybe scandals with celebrities doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and whatever. I've seen that. Like, if, for example, we could talk about the industry. I've literally seen men that will take advantage of one young girl after another that comes through, and because she wants something from him, he's like, okay, well, you look good, so what are you gonna do for me? And I'm not gonna say I don't agree with that, but it is what it is. And I think that if you're not aware of that, then you could be kind of taken advantage of. And one of my friends one time said, she said something about how she read a book about men or something like that, and she learned about men when she was a teenager in her 20s. And I said, "What did you learn about men that surprised you the most?" She said, "Men are perverts." and, that's, and she and so so I think girls need to learn that type of stuff, because maybe it doesn't come natural. It doesn't make sense. Now, what has been your experience in terms of what you've seen as far as things women in their 20s are not sure about, like when it comes to guys and what guys are thinking when it comes to sex and all that?
Well, I say that my experiences with some of the men that I've dated, some of them have been just genuinely nice people. They've never pushed up on me. They've never done anything disrespectful or irresponsible. But then there are some men who do not care. And when I say they don't care, I mean they'll try to have sex with you in a restaurant underneath the booth, or you know what I'm saying? Like, some guys just don't care. And I think that those are the kind of guys that you would, I mean, I feel like there are a blessing in some ways because they're very honest. So from up front, you already know this is not something that I want to deal with. But I definitely think that when it comes to dating and it comes to people asking you what kind of man do you look for, tell them that. Tell them, I want a man who's going to take his time. I want a man who's not going to push himself up on me. And I'm very adamant about this. This is the kind of man that I want. And usually from my experience, when I have told people what I want up front, they already decide if they're going to deal with me or if they're not going to deal with me. And some of them have stuck around because that's truly how they felt about themselves, and others stuck around because they felt like they could sway my thoughts. And then some just left because they felt like, well, shit, she don't want somebody who want to have sex all the time, and I want to have sex all the time, so this just isn't worth my time. And like I said, those guys, the really honest ones, I feel like they can be a blessing and a curse because they're so honest that it might hurt you, but they're so honest that they give you the real and they let you know what you need to deal with and what you deserve and what you don't deserve. And that's what I'm saying. I think that it's very important for a father to talk to his daughter about what she deserves and how to know if somebody is worth giving her body to, because when you give someone your body, you're not just giving them your body, you're giving them your mind too, you're giving them your heart, you're giving them pretty much everything that you have inside of you, because technically they are inside of you during that moment. So I think that it's important for fathers, and not even just fathers, the daughters who have daughters, teach your daughter that when you have sex with someone, if he's been disrespecting you, if he's been out with other people, if he's been messing around with other people, and you found out about these things, then maybe this isn't the person that you need to have sex with. You need to think about that before you have sex with someone, because then you can contract AIDS, you can contract pretty much any STD under the sun, especially nowadays, because like I said, a lot of people are just, like you said, a lot of men are just perverts. Not all, but a lot of them are, and they will have sex with whatever they can. And it's not fun finding out something like that, and it hurts your feelings. And sometimes women feel like they need to compete with another woman just so that they can prove a point and win this man over. But if he's been with everybody, why would you want somebody who's for everybody? Because clearly you're not just everybody. You have a value. You're worth something. So don't treat yourself like everybody.
Mm. Well, I think that's true. I think that speaking of how we treat people, I'm a strong believer. In fact, I know this, that a woman teaches a man how to treat her. From the very beginning, you got some men that are scavengers that are looking for the cheap opportunities. They're looking for the cheap girls. They're looking for the girls that have sex with them on the first date or whatever. And once they realize that you're not in that category, then those guys will either walk away or they'll straighten up. They'll change their behavior. That's why you'll see men treat two women who are identical in terms of looks. They'll treat them totally different because one woman has set the standard high, the other one has set the standard low. Now you don't want to set the standard too high, because I've seen some women that set the standard so high that can't nobody climb that tree. So if you sitting there and you 37 years old and you still a virgin, I can't, I don't understand that, right? And I knew a lady who was a 37-year-old virgin, and I was like, well, and that's not, I don't know if that's, I don't know, like, you're proud of that, like, you kind of missed out a little bit. But at the same time though, I think it's a balance, right? When you set that standard high, you kind of just make it clear, like, look, I'm not a thought, like a two chains, THOT.
A
uh,
thought,
a
not
thought. I'm
thought.
a thought. I always say thought. I'm not a thought. I'm not cheap. I'm not quick and easy. I'm not a jump off. When you lay that foundation out, guys understand. And so literally, you'll see a guy treat one girl one way and another girl totally different. You'd be like, why would you treat the? In fact, you may be treating the ugly girl better than you treat the pretty girl. It's all about how you value yourself. It's like, because we're all a product. And if you tell me, if I come to you and I say, well, my product is cheap, then you're gonna say, okay, then I'm gonna pay $1 for this. But if you tell them, look, my product is special and unique and whatever, then people gonna know that they're gonna have to step up their game in order to get access to you. A good example might be like, I don't know. Let's say let's say you're talking about a Beyonce versus, I would say, like a Little Kim, but she's kind of old. But take Little Kim when she was younger. Beyonce and Little Kim are probably very similar, like in the bedroom. Both of them have shown that they get down in the bedroom, which I think is, I don't judge that. I think that that's, if that's what you do with your man, that's what you do. But the way men respond to each of those women is very different. Because Beyonce puts up a signal that says, "Yeah, I'm sexy. Yeah, I know you want this, and that's cool. But you're gonna have to earn this. You got to put a ring on it. You're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come correct. You can't be out here cheating. You can't be doing this, this, and this. You have to straighten up a little bit to earn the right to have access to my body." Lil Kim is on stage talking about how she can swallow a Coke bottle, or just saying, like, I went through this man and that man and all this other stuff. So men naturally, they recognize this, and I think it's important for women to understand that, and then the other funny thing to me that's real interesting, and I don't know really how to think about this. Maybe you could tell me what I should think about this, but sometimes I'll hear, some women who will say, well, if men want to sleep around with women, and that's okay when they do it, so why can't I just sleep around with whoever I want, whenever I want, and then that's okay too? Like, you literally have some women that want to be like guys, and on one hand, I think a woman should have a right to do whatever she wants to do, as long as you're happy with what you get. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, you're not a man, you know. Like I'm not gonna behave like a woman, so I don't understand a woman's desire to behave like a guy in that situation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I personally think that as far as women saying stuff like that, eh. I mean, it's like you said, you're not a guy, but at the same time, guys shouldn't do it either. I think it's about, you're not, I don't really know how to word. You're not a prostitute. You're not a slut. You ain't a hoe. And it's not just for women. That's for men too. I think that men should put value on their bodies as well, because STDs don't go to a particular sex or a particular gender. They can be passed around to everybody. Men have feelings. Women have feelings. So I feel that if you are, whether you're a man or a woman, I think that society has taught us that it's okay for men to sleep with whoever they want and to do whatever they want. And women should be the wife at home, taking care of the children, and she should only be with one man. I think that for women, that is true. But for men, men should be a husband at home helping his wife take care of their children and be with one woman. Why should it be okay for a man to sleep with whoever he wants, but it's not okay for a woman to sleep with whoever she wants? But why should it be okay? Why should it be okay that a woman has to stay at home caged, and a man can go out and do whatever you know what I mean? Like, I think that if you are a particular person, and if a man is looking for a wife who is an actual wife, who empowers him, who only stays loyal to him, then he should be that exact same type of husband. Now, if you want to be a trick and you want to have sex with any woman that you can find, but you want to get married, then don't be surprised if you marry a woman that's exactly like you. Because even if she may not come in that package, in turn, 10 years later, she may get tired of your shit. And she may turn into that woman.
Mm.
Sorry, I said shit. I shouldn't have said shit. Shit is a bad word.
No, I don't care. You can say shit. It's fine. Just don't say fuck or damn. Those are cuss words. We don't cuss in here. If we did cuss, we would say fuck all the time, but we don't cuss. So can't use the word fuck.
It's
Anyway,
opposite.
but no, in all seriousness though, I agree with you. You know what I do, Patrice, when I really want to understand what lies in the hearts of men and women. What I do is I watch like shows like this on the Discovery Channel or Nature Channel type stuff to just see like what do animals do when they're trying to mate and all this stuff because we're mammals. That's what human beings are. So there are a lot of mammals all throughout the earth. You know, everything from mice to polar bears, right? And one of the things I noticed that was real interesting is what you talked about how women tend to be uncomfortable with a man who doesn't take his time or a man who pushes up too fast. Like, did you know that birds do the same thing? They showed like some peacocks or something, and the female was sitting there, and the dude like rolled up on the female like, "Hey girl, how you doing?" And if he moved too fast, if he moved up on her too fast, the girl would fly and take off.
Hmm.
and, and if he took his time, then there's gonna be a baby peacock coming on the way. And so I thought that was interesting. The other thing I noticed too is they said that there's two types of species in the mammal kingdom. There's pair bonded and what they call trophy species. Pair bonded species are where the males and the females are the same size. They have more monogamy. They raise the kids together, and then they have the trophy species where the males and females are not the same size, and 5% of the males produce 95% of the babies. 5% of the males produce 95% of it. So you got basically nothing but babies, mamas,
Well,
and
isn't that like the gorillas?
some of the gorillas are like that. I'm not sure exactly which species behave that way, but there's a lot of similarities. And what that did, when I see that, that tells me what what our instinct tells us to do. Because actually, in the human brain is not much different from an animal brain in the back, like the primitive part. We just have the extra part. They call it the prefrontal cortex, where we're allowed to think more complexly and we create societies and we do stuff animals don't do. But in terms of a lot of things animals want, a lot of that's very consistent with what we want as human beings. So the reason I bring that up is because people ask, well, what are human beings? Are they in that first category with monogamy, or are they in the second category with the trophy species? And actually, it's a little bit of both. And so basically, sometimes I think when you see guys that are making a lot of babies or sleeping with a lot of women, it's not because that's something they just decided to do. Some of that is kind of instinctual. It doesn't justify it, but it is kind of instinctual. And then at the same time, for women, I think their response to sex and love is different. Like a woman, not all women, I can't say all women, but generally speaking, if a pretty girl walks into a barbershop full of men and says, "I need somebody to have sex with me right now in 5 minutes," uh, a lot of the men would be like, "Okay, I'll do it," if she's really pretty, right? But if a handsome man walks into a barbershop full of women and says the same thing, I want somebody to have sex with me in 5 minutes. A couple women might raise their hand, but a lot of women will be like, "No, I don't even know you," right? Like there's a different process, right? So,
Well, you need to say women
uh,
go to the hair salon. You said barbershop.
well, you know what I
Go
mean.
ahead.
You know what I'm saying. So the point there is that I think that the way the woman sees, like when a man's thinking about sleeping with a woman, a lot of times he's thinking about how much fun it's going to be, how great it's going to be. Even if it's bad, at least we tried. We might as well try it. Why don't we just try it? Because it might be good, right? That's what guys are really thinking a lot of times. Whereas women might be thinking about the downside. They're thinking about the risk. Like, well, what if you sleep with me and you never call me again? What if you sleep with me and it's bad? What if you sleep with me and I get pregnant? What if you sleep with me and I get an STD? So they're thinking about stuff like that a lot of times, which causes a different process. And I think that for women, so my point there is that I think because sharing your body can be such a serious thing for women, I think it's very important to kind of know who you're giving your access to your body to. Because the thing is that there's this thing, and I want every woman watching to go look this up. It is one of many chemicals in your brain called oxytocin. And you and I have talked about oxytocin. Oxytocin is what they call the bonding chemical. Oxytocin is what makes human beings come together. It's what makes mothers and children connect. If you took oxytocin out of a mother's brain, she wouldn't care where her baby went. She wouldn't even care. She'd be like, whatever. I got stuff to do. But oxytocin makes it so that when the baby's born, they're so connected that she would rather die than lose her baby. So that's why. So during sex, a woman's oxytocin levels spike through the roof. They go up 500% during sex. And here's another secret, and this is on the raunchy side, but it's true. So we all grown folks here. The better the sex, the more the oxytocin comes out of the brain. Like, so if you sleep with a man and you have an orgasm and it's like the best sex ever, your oxytocin's through the roof. So next thing you know, you get up, you might be like, I want to cook for my man. I want to wash his dirty drawers. He's so wonderful, girl. Yeah, I know he killed 3 people last week, but that's because he was lonely. Like, whatever. I'm being silly. I'm being silly. But you get the point. Like the oxytocin causes you, it hijacks your brain. It makes you trust. Look it up. I want people to go read it and look it up because oxytocin makes you trust the man more. It makes you more open to suggestion. Like if he says do this, then you're more likely to do that. That's why you hear about situations where a woman is so caught up in a dude that she gives him all her money and lets him just like tell her to do all these crazy things, like or go kill somebody or whatever. It happens. It happens all the time. So my point is that, and I know it was a long point. It was too long winded. I'm gonna shut up. But my point here is like, I say that to a woman before you give a man access to your body. Understand that um, you might, if you're not careful, you could turn yourself into the addict and he becomes your pusher in a way. Like you become addicted to his love, literally addicted, and he's the one that controls access to that love. So if you share yourself with a man who isn't worthy of you or who isn't seriously committed to you or who isn't going to be responsible with that power he's going to have over you, then you could be aiming for a lot of heartache. Like, so I say that if a guy looks like, if you know a guy's a dog, like you can smell a dog from a mile away. But the thing about dogs is that sometimes dogs smell real good. That's how they get away with dogging people. They know the game. They know the swag. They know how to dress. They know how to talk to you. They know how to tell you you're beautiful. They know how to do all. They know the game. They are experts at the game. So, but you know a dog when you see one a lot of times. You might see him how he deals with other girls, or you might see some things about his life. Like, wait a minute, he got 6 kids by how many babies mamas or whatever. So you know he's not right for you. So my argument is, if you see that guy and you know he's not right for you, don't even give him your phone number. Don't even open the door for step one to lead to step two to lead to step three, because every baby that comes out of somebody's body started with a first date. It started with a first phone call. It started with a first glance. It started with a, hey girl, how you doing, you look good today. It started with something like that where you didn't have any idea that it was going to end up leading to 30 years or 40 years dealing with this person, right? So I would say look in advance, like do that in advance, because once you're in love, love is like an addiction. Love is very powerful. Once you're in, it's hard to climb out, but it's easier to stay out than it is to get out. What do you think?
I think that's true, and I think that an important thing to tell people is don't have children with someone if you can't see yourself marrying them. Because if you have children with them, they're automatically going to be in your life for the rest of your life because of that child. And if you guys hate each other, or if it was just a one night stand and he just had sex with you one time or two times or whatever, and you guys were never in a relationship, a committed relationship, and you never set boundaries, then don't be surprised that after you have that child, you guys aren't together anymore. And it doesn't have to be that he broke up with you. You may have had some type of enlightenment and realized that this just isn't the person for you anymore, and so you left him. So I think that if you are going to have a child with somebody, or if you are going to lay down and give your body to someone, think about, would you be happy with this person 30 years from now?
I think that's really good advice. I mean, it's yeah, love is real sneaky because it's so funny to me how you can go from really really thinking highly of another person to just a few months later hating their guts. Like they say, there's a thin line between love and hate, and it's really true.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you might be in love with the person, but really you're in love with the feeling that comes from being in that relationship. So when that person takes that away from you, the person you used to think that you love becomes the person you hate because they took away something that was valuable to you. And
Well, I think that there is a thin line. I'm sorry to cut you
no,
off. I
that's
think
okay.
that there is a thin line between love and hate, but love and hate are also very similar. Usually, if you hate somebody, it's because you love them so much and they didn't love you back.
Hmm. I hate
So
you so much right now.
so that's pretty much where I believe that the hate can come from after loving someone. Because if you love them, that means that you would do anything for them, you do anything to make them happy. But if the feeling isn't mutual, then that's what can bring about the hate. Now, if the feeling is mutual, then there's no need for the hate.
Well, you know what they say, that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. Have you heard that before?
No.
Yeah, they say that the way you can tell if you're not into somebody anymore is not whether you hate them or you love them. It's whether you care. Like, so if you got an ex and somebody says, "Oh, well, they got married," If you get mad, that means you still have some feelings, right? But if you're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, that's great. I'm happy for them," or "Oh, I don't care," then that means you've kind of moved on, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, that's what I always believe. Yeah, so I would just say in general, relationship. Here's the thing: the most important thing that a person does in their life most of the time is who they choose to spend their life with, who they let into their life. And sometimes you can have everything right in one area, like your career, your education, all this other stuff, and then pick bad relationships. And a bad relationship will mess all of that up. Did you see? You're into hairstyle. Did you see? You wrote the story on Naturally Moi about Miss Jessie's founder and what happened to
Yeah,
her.
that was very unfortunate.
Yeah, it was
She
sad.
um she was a she was basically like a hair product guru pretty much for natural hair, and I think like she had like a beard line with her boyfriend or something like that. And she was 45, and she committed suicide. And I've actually followed, I actually used to use, the Miss Jessie's line or whatever. So I'm kind of familiar with her story. But I mean, pretty much the way people described it is she had it all. Like her life just seemed so perfect, and she ended up committing suicide. And now her sister is taking her boyfriend, well, her then boyfriend, to court because she is saying that he is the reason why she killed herself. And I think a few days after she killed herself, this asshole sent an email to her family which showed her will that she remade. She like redid it, and he was on the will, and he gets 50% of everything that she had.
Mm.
And
Well,
this was only a few days after she had committed suicide.
yeah, now that is an asshole move to make.
Hmm.
But let's be clear though. In my opinion, he did. Nobody made her commit suicide unless they were the ones who did it. She made herself commit suicide. She made
Right.
that. I mean, I think that's important to make clear. But at the same time, love does affect you. I don't know if it can hijack your brain. And the crazy thing about it to me was that she met the guy in 2012. So you've been working, your life's work. You 45. You don't spend 20, 30 years building this thing, and somebody you meet on Match.com in 2012 comes along, and
And
you
takes
done
it
gave
out.
him $700,000 plus half of everything you worked for. That's the power of love, though. That's what love can do. If it catches you by surprise, if you link up with the wrong person, or if you're not complete as a person, if you're not able to find enough happiness and self confidence and self love to manage yourself, then what'll happen is somebody will come along and you'll say, this was just what I needed. This person completes me. And that's a problem when you say somebody completes you, because it kind of means you weren't complete before they came along. And I think you should have room for another person, but you have to find a way to love yourself, because a lot of times that person you think that loves you in a relationship may not love you the way that you thought they
Hmm.
did. So I think that love is powerful. It can be wonderful, but it can be dangerous, just like a drug. And I think people have to be careful when they do. So did
Well,
you have? Oh,
I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead.
When somebody says that another person completes them, I think the first thing that you have to look at is what their life is like now. Because I mean, and I don't want to be disrespectful to her family or anything, but you have to think about she was 45. She didn't have any children, and before him she didn't have a spouse. So I think that she had this gap that was literally missing in her life, and I think she just took whatever came to her and put that person in that space. You know what I mean? Because she had success, she had a family that she could lean on. She just didn't have what most women want, which is love and children. And and even in his statements, he had said something about he wanted to start a family with her. And my thinking is, okay, how would this family be brought about unless you guys adopt it? Because being 45 years old, I mean, let's be honest, the clock is pretty much ticked itself away. You know what I'm saying? So I think that sometimes when you hear people say things like he completes me or she completes me, you have to look at their life and see what they have already. If they have children, if they have a wife, if they have a good mother, if they have a good father, if they have a good job, then there's really no other completing that they need. Now, if they're missing children and a wife or children and a husband, then whatever comes along on Match.com or the swipe thing, whatever, then they take that and they say that's what completes me now, which may not always be the case. And I think that it's important for girls to know, especially in my age, because me not being married and having children, I don't know if I ever will have children. I honestly haven't thought about it that much, but I feel like my life isn't complete, but I'm not going to take the first thing that comes into my eyesight and say, this is what completes me. So I'm going to give him half of everything that I got.
Yeah,
No.
that is pretty heavy. And so, speaking of Match.com, I mean, since we're having the daddy daughter conversation about guys, like online dating, I think is kind of a slippery slope. It doesn't mean it's a bad place to go to meet people. I've seen a lot of good stories from that, but you got a lot of predators on online, on these online websites that are, literally stockpiling women. You got, dudes like some handsome guy where every girl's gonna be like, "Oh my God, I met the man of my dreams," but you don't realize, electronic dating changes the game. You might literally be competing with 40 other women. Because every woman that you every basically every woman that he sees thinks he's attractive. So you're not the only one who noticed all the great things about him that made him somebody that you wanted to be with. So it doesn't mean that that guy can't be yours. It just means you always got to know what you're competing with, because there's a difference between having a great man and having a great man that's yours. Those are two different things. There's a whole lot of great men out here that are being shared by a whole lot of women, and maybe some of those women really think this is my man, this is my what I'm focused on, and it's okay if that's what you want. If you're okay with that, I'm not judging that. But the problem is that when you're focused on him and he got eight other chicks in the background, then you're passing up the other guys that might come along who might be only yours. So you might end up, if you're not careful, again, you may end up signing up for the piece of man philosophy. Remember when Tiny Ti's wife said that? Was talking about the piece of
Mm-hmm.
man. How she said it's better to have
Mm-hmm.
a piece of a man than no man at all. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you might be signing up for the piece of man program and not even realize it. And again, some people are okay with that, but if you're not okay with it, make sure you know the difference between a piece of man and a whole man. The other thing that I think people have to understand too is that because you do have some.
Well,
Oh,
can
go
I
ahead.
can I
No,
say something
go
really
ahead,
quick on
please,
that
please.
though?
Go ahead.
Just really, really quick. As far as online dating goes, I've always kind of looked at it like, yes, a slippery slope, but meeting a man at the mall is a slippery slope as well.
It's a slippery slope too, but the thing is to me, and I'm not saying online dating's bad at all. I'm not saying. I mean, before a lot of people knew who I was, I actually did online dating back like a long time ago, and it was cool. I did meet somebody, and I had a relationship. I'm not gonna lie, I'm keeping it real. Um, but it's so online dating is fine. I mean, it's good, especially for people that work a lot and don't want to go to the club and stuff like that. I think you can meet good people online. I really believe that. But you got a whole lot of online predators too, and it's a different game because it's what we call in finance an efficient market. An efficient market means that if you meet a guy in the mall, he may have two or three girls on the side or whatever, because he's only able to collect as many girls as he meets. So during a given day, he might only meet say three or four girls or five or six or whatever, because he's just meeting girls when he goes out and to work and stuff like that. Online, he can literally meet 100 women in a day if he just goes from profile to profile to profile. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if he's a good looking man and has a lot going on, or at least puts up a good profile, he might snag 30 out of 100 women. So he might be picking up 30 women a day that he's talking to and hollering at. So it's a different process. You understand? It doesn't mean one is always worse than the other, but it's a different process. That's why people use online dating, because it's easier to meet somebody because there's more people to choose from. So what happens is, and this is biology, women are naturally instinctually inclined to notice men in the top 10%. That's biologists say that women tend to notice men who are up here, and they don't notice all the men who are below the top 10, top 20%. So what'll happen is you'll have some guy that you meet, you'll be like, "Oh my God, girl, I finally met the man of my dreams. He's so handsome, he's rich, he's smooth, he dresses really well, he's so smart, he's this, that, and the other. So I think I'm gonna make Boyce Watkins my husband." I'm playing, I'm being silly. I'm being silly. I'm being silly. I'm being silly.
celebrity
get back on
now.
the
After
screen.
the Breakfast Club,
Stop laughing.
everybody wants to do.
No, no, no. But I'm joking. I'm joking. But she. To be honest, I've seen a little bit of that because I'm not famous like Will Smith, but I'm famous enough that I know how people change their behavior towards you if they think you got money and fame or maybe you're kind of smart. But I've seen guys that are really good looking and they have all that too, and they're famous and they're rich. So what happens is they'll just go like from city to city, and every place they go, women will meet them and think, oh my god, I finally met the man of my dreams. And they don't understand, like, this guy's meeting he's meeting the same type of woman every city he goes to. So guys like Michael Jordan, for example, when he was playing basketball, he would have a girl in every city. And here's the thing, here's where that's kind of gets real messed up is a lot of these dudes, that'll have sex with a whole lot of women, they don't a lot of them don't go to the doctor. Like, a lot of them haven't been to the doctor since they were newborn babies. And so these some of these guys like are carrying diseases, and people don't think about that. They're just looking at how good you look and how good you make them feel, and they're not thinking about what kind of terror you could be bringing into their life.
That's like Young Thug. You know he's about to get married.
Oh god, don't, that's gross.
Ebola with dreads. Ugh.
Ebola with
He's
dreads,
so
you did not
gross
say
to
that.
me. And his fiance is like perfect. Like she's absolutely beautiful. And I'm just thinking like, well, damn, how many pairs of Louboutins did he have to buy her to get
Mm.
her to lay down in a bed full of cockroaches?
Oh, you're wrong. You are so wrong. But
He was nasty.
actually, I don't know. You probably don't. This is before your time, but you might have heard it. Do you remember Winston Bennett that played at the University of Kentucky? He was a basketball
Mm-mm.
player. He was a superstar back in the day. He was Mr. Basketball in Kentucky. He went to the NBA. He was a star at University of Kentucky. So imagine a guy who's a star at University of Kentucky. Like, how many girls he might attract. Do you know this man went on TV and said he used to have sex with as many as 90 women a month? 90
And
women.
that's only 30 days in a month. So he was
Yes.
having sex with three different women a day.
Sometimes, yeah. I don't think he was hitting 90 every month. Like, that was probably just a big month for him. But that one month is enough. I mean, most people never don't have sex with that many people in a lifetime. And so, the thing is, like, I think you have to be able to look out for that type of stuff and really know what you're dealing with. Because, in fact, he even admitted that he cheated on his wife during his honeymoon and gave her an STD during the trip. And so a lot of people have to really understand that, like, we have an epidemic of STDs in the black community, and a lot of women get infected by guys that are kind of going from woman to woman to woman. Now, not to say that there aren't women who do the same thing, but I think that you have to really look at the whole of the person in terms of asking yourself, if this man is in a situation where another woman is trying to get something from him, or he has a chance to cheat on me, what kind of integrity does this man have?
And
That's
I
that's really it.
and when you said that, that actually reminded me of, you remember Jennifer from Basketball Wives? She was like best friends with Evelyn or something like that.
I think I remember her. Yeah, I remember Evelyn.
Yeah,
I definitely remember Evelyn.
she was a pretty brown complected woman. Anyways, she was talking about being married to that Eric guy that had like the little knots on his head.
Eric. I don't remember his last. I don't
Yeah,
remember
well,
him.
he was in the NBA. He played for like the Celtics or something. Anyway, so she,
Oh, Eric Snow.
I guess,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
What did he like hit her on the show or something? Or am I making
No,
that up?
he threw a drink in her face.
Okay, there you go.
So
Okay, keep going.
she thrown a drink in his, she like threw a drink in his back, and then he threw one in her face, and everybody was like, well, he shouldn't have done that. But I'm just like, no, she needed to drink her drink and not throw it at him. You know what I mean? But anyway, it just reminded me of what you said reminded me of that, because she had actually said that the day that they got married, when they went on their honeymoon, she found out that he had cheated. But I think she said like he cheated again. And so I think that that's something that's important to share with girls is, no, I don't care about how good he looks, how much money he has, or where he could possibly take you. If he is performing this type of behavior before you get married, why in the hell would you marry him? Because you're going to have to stick with that for the rest of your life. And people change throughout their lives. And some people feel like, well, once we get married, it's a clean slate. But would you feel that way with the garbage man?
Well, that's a good point, and I think also that the way a person treats you before you get married is kind of what they're gonna do when you get married. Like,
Yeah, because
people.
marriage don't do nothing. It just gets you a ring and a pretty wedding and a nice dress.
Right, right. So marriage is hard. I mean, it's not everything that's cracked up to be or that people fantasize it to be. I mean, I think that if you get married, I think if you're not prepared to kind of endure some stuff that you don't expect to endure, then you probably shouldn't do it. You know, because you see a lot of people, a lot, put it this way, a lot of our grandparents stayed married for 50, 60 years, not because it went perfect, but because they just said, we're married, we're not going to get divorced. But believe me, they had infidelity back then, they had all kinds of stuff. And I know that my philosophy has been, whether you're a man or a woman, if you're not prepared to possibly endure some infidelity or something that disappoints you, marriage is probably not for you. You know, so I don't really, I almost have a hard time really seeing infidelity as being a sole reason for divorce, because I think if you're not kind of ready for that possibility that people are going to do things they shouldn't do, you probably shouldn't just not get married, because it happens all the time. I mean, look at all these celebrity divorces. Almost every celebrity divorce, first thing that you see on the divorce paper is infidelity, infidelity, and irreconcilable differences, all over and over and over again. And I'm just like, well, I mean, come on now. You know, so I don't know. I don't know. I think if you get married, you got to be ready to just really do it, stick to it, understand it ain't gonna be hard, or it's gonna be very difficult at times. And but you make a commitment. That's what a commitment is. A commitment is not something that you do until you get tired of doing it. A commitment is something you do because you said you're going to do it, and you stick
But if
to it.
you right, and if you make a commitment, it should be on both ends. If a woman makes a commitment, she needs to stay with her husband. But if a man makes a commitment, he needs to keep his swanker inside of his pants and stop trying to give it to everyone else. After, once this woman becomes his wife, or once he decides that this is the woman that he wants to be with for the rest of his life. Because when you get married, or I'm sorry, not even when you get married, when you get into a relationship, you know if this person is a person that you could see yourself being with. So to me, if a woman can't see herself being with a person, minus all of the glitter, all of the gold, all of the diamonds, all of the money, then she shouldn't be there, because you never know, that could run out. You know what I'm saying? And as for men, if a man if a man looks at you and he just like, oh, this woman makes my heart flutter. She looks so good. She got a big butt and da 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 da. Well, she's gonna have children, so that could change. Are you willing to love her even after she doesn't look like a model anymore? Because let's be honest. I mean, I'm 25, and honestly, I personally feel like I am a brick house. But when I turn 40, it's going to be different, and
Mm.
I've accepted that. So I need a man who's going to be able to accept that as well. And I've dated men who have had enough money to take care of me, but it could run out. So am I gonna love this guy whether he has the money or not? And there are some people who I feel like I really could love, even to this day, and we don't even talk anymore. There are some people who I feel like I really could love, and if they ask me to marry, I might say yeah. But I think that it's just about a self evaluation. Are you willing to literally go through anything? Because some people think, oh, well, it's not that bad. It can't be that bad. It can't be that rough. The way I look at it, if you talk to a couple who is 75 years old, they've been married for 45, 50 years, and they talk about how tough marriage has been throughout their relationship, but they were willing to stay. You need to take advice from those people versus taking advice from damn Shiny and Shaquille O'Neal,
Mm.
or taking advice from I'd rather take advice from Oprah and Stedman versus taking advice from Young Thug and his fiance. You know what I'm saying? Because they know what it's like to stay together.
Well, I agree with you. I think that if you're gonna take advice from anybody on how to do something, you need to take advice from somebody who's done it well and
Mhm.
succeeded, right? You know, because when you get married, when you start a family, it's like starting a business with somebody, and you don't want to start a business with a bad business partner, or somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, somebody who doesn't want to work hard at the business, who isn't going to be committed to the business. But people do that all the time with relationships. They'll start a relationship with somebody who is a bad partner to deal with. So it's so yeah, but so I agree with you. I think get the advice from the old school people, and believe me, they're gonna. I know my parents, they married for 40 years, but I know how much they went through, and I know that it's not easy. So I say, if you're not sure you can do it, don't do it at all. Well, it was good talking to you, Patrice.
Good talking to you too.
Absolutely, and we talked for a long time today, so I appreciate everybody who hung out with us. And we didn't mean to be so long-winded, but we hope that it was helpful. We hope it was fun. And by the way, you can check out Patrice's articles. She writes under the name Naturally Treese on naturallymoire.com. Her YouTube channel is if you go to YouTube and you search for Naturally Treese, that's TRIECE. You can follow her YouTube channel where she does tutorials on hair and makeup and all this stuff. She's a hella stylist. She's really good, and she will be able to give you everything that you need. Now, me,
Even though I don't look like it right now, but that's okay.
no, you always look beautiful, always. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and we have a new film that just came out called Resurrecting Black Wall Street. You can check out the film at resurrectingblackwallstreet.com, and the resurrecting is spelled with one S and two R's, just in case you're not sure. So please go check out the film. It's a great project that we did about the Black Wall Street Massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. And it's a story that every black child in America needs to know. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.